Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and welcome to the Qazwini Brothers podcast. This is our 14th episode. It's the second to last. I know I've had a blast doing it, and inshallah you guys like what we've been doing as well. My name is Sayyid Muhammad Rada Qazwini, and joined with me today is my dear elder brother, Sayyid Muhammad Jawad Qazwini. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about gemstones. So many people like to wear rings. We have a hadith about different type of gemstones. So we're going to be talking about A through Z about different gemstones, just because there's so much misinformation involved, certain superstitions and things of that nature.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. Respected brothers, sisters, friends, viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I actually think that this topic is, first of all, it looks like people are very interested in the topic.
Right.
And second of all, I think though you will find a ring in a Muslim's life somewhere, either they're wearing it or they've kept it aside,
right,
or they're thinking of buying one. Mm-hmm. Especially the followers of Ahlul-Bayt, because we all go to ziyarah, sometime in our life, or when we go to Hajj, inshallah. For those who haven't gone, they will go. For those who haven't gone to ziyarah, they will be able to do so. And all around you see shops that are obviously selling rings.
Right.
And you get in there and you get so confused. There are so many rings, there are so many different stones, so many different colors. Mm-hmm. Which one's good, which one isn't good, which one is real, which one isn't real. What is the story behind each ring? Are they all part of the Islamic rituals or the Islamic teachings, or are some of them, pre-Islam? Many questions exist around this topic, and I don't know if many people have talked about it. I don't even know if anybody's talked about it, to be honest with you.
Definitely.
So we needed to shed some light on this topic for sure. It's a very important topic. Though obviously I want to say right in the beginning that I have a hobby of knowing about stones and collecting rings, and though I don't collect many, when I try to also gift, so I don't keep, I don't store too many. But what I'm trying to say is I have a hobby for it, so I know quite well. I mean, I know I have some good information,
right?
But I'm not an expert.
Right.
Definitely not an expert. So we're just discussing this, I guess, from...
none of what we're going to be talking about is technically scientifically proven. Although we searched far and wide for different scientific articles about benefits of gemstones or things of that nature, but doesn't seem to be like there's any studies conducted at all in the scientific world. So today we're going to be talking about a few main points. We'll talk about what kind of gemstones are recommended for us to wear by the faith of Islam or Sunnah, Hadith maybe. Then we'll talk about where a good place is to buy gemstones at. So where should we shop? Then we'll talk a little bit about diamonds and the difference between precious stones and semi-precious or non-precious stones in Western terms. Then we'll talk about gemstones and the Ahlul-Bayt. And finally, we'll talk about gemstones and superstitions. So we have tons of questions today. We'll try to get through all of them within our discussion, and if we don't, we'll take some at the end.
Inshallah.
So, which kind of gemstones are recommended for us to wear?
Okay, so basically, I like to always introduce my audience to where they can find those discussions in Islamic books. Even when I teach my classes, I always give them the reference that what we're discussing now can be found under this title in those particular books, or the fiqh books, or the books of hadith.
Right.
So you will be able to find books, you will be able to find articles, you will be able to find hadith, from in the books of all Muslims under the title of Al-Ahjar Al-Karima, the precious stones. However, there's a slight difference between the Western definition of precious stones and the Islamic definition of precious stones. So precious stones in the Western, in its Western definition, would be obviously diamonds, rubies.
It depends on the rarity, basically. The more rare, the
yeah,
stone,
and I would say the price.
Right.
Maybe there are some stones that are rare, but they're not really expensive. So maybe a little bit of both. But then things like aqiq and firoza and all those other ones will be considered semi-precious stones.
Right.
However, in our books, according to Islamic scholars, those are the precious stones.
Right.
Because we have hadiths discussing them. And we will be discussing, when we discuss diamonds, that diamonds weren't really precious at that time.
Definitely.
And for example, turquoise was definitely considered way more precious than a diamond.
So turquoise is feruza.
Yeah.
Just to...
Yeah, we'll go over that later on.
Cool.
So, you asked me which ones are recommended to wear?
Right, yeah.
Okay. So, there's an introduction that I'd like to give before we get into this particular, defining, I'll mention some of the stones, and I'll mention maybe one or two hadiths surrounding this topic or that particular stone.
Okay.
But I want to say that, there are some hadiths that say, for example, if you wear aqiq, or if you wear turquoise, or what have you, hypothetically, you will, for example, have good rizq. Right. You'll have good income. You'll be in a good financial state or status, or you'll or for example, if you wear turquoise, then jealousy will be removed away from you, and what have you. We'll look at the hadiths. But does that mean that this rock by itself is going to ultimately completely protect you against that? That is not the case.
Right.
Those are things you may do in order to create a shield around yourself, or to bring blessings to yourself. But they are not the only thing.
Right.
So we sometimes may do things that counter that. For example, for men, we have a hadith as simple as saying, if you don't, if a man's mustache starts getting into on his lips and his mouth, this is something that decreases the rizq. Obviously, Islam giving a lot of attention to hygiene,
right.
A lot of importance to hygiene. You don't want to be sitting in front of a guy that his mustache and it's in his lips, and he's eating, and it's obvious. And I see people until now, basically like that.
Yeah. And
some of them are unfortunately religious, but I don't know if they know this or not, that you have to keep your mustache very short.
Right.
Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says. So is that something that where the malaika, the angels would say, oh, reduce his finances? Or is it that, you start making less and you become less attractive because people won't want to deal with you. Right. People won't, it has this effect on people where, they don't feel good being around somebody who doesn't look good,
Right.
Same thing goes for example, Ghusl al-Jum'ah. They say Ghusl al-Jum'ah increases in your rizq and sustenance. Now, is it that angels, when you take the Ghusl al-Jum'ah, when you do the ghusl or the shower, you take that shower on the day of Friday, they start saying, okay, add to this guy's rizq? Or is it that we become, and then we have to use atar, right. We have to use perfumes, we have to comb our beard, we have to clip our nails. So all of that combined makes somebody attractive and people want to deal with that person. So when we talk about those hadith, don't go around thinking that if you buy a turquoise now, or if you buy an agate, then that's it. You don't have to go to work. You don't have to do anything. That is not the case.
Right.
And this is what scholars call in our books al-'alla tam. Once something is the complete reason for an occurrence.
Right.
Those aren't complete reasons for an occurrence, you know. So anyhow, let's get to your question. Amongst the stones that are mentioned in ahadith is al-firuza,
Right.
or al-firuzaj, which is turquoise, which is the blue one.
Yeah.
Are you wearing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that one. It's I believe it's a really beautiful stone for sure.
Yeah.
The hadith say that it creates a sense of happiness and joy. It makes you feel light.
Right.
You know, it's also attractive. You know, people are attracted towards you. But it is associated with victory.
Right.
I would say the correct translation would be it's associated with victory.
Right.
You know, we have several narrations that, for example, Imam Ali would wear a turquoise ring. He may have wore other ones, but you know, in some battles we know that he wore a turquoise ring on his right hand, and on there was something written. And inshallah we will be talking about what was written on the rings of the Imams and the Ma'sumin. I personally love this stone.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of my favorite, and but it's very difficult to differentiate an authentic turquoise from that which isn't authentic. And then
taking care of it's hard too.
Taking care of it is very difficult. Yes, absolutely. So oil will kill this ring.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about, you know, stones that are alive and stones that are dead, and what's the difference between the two. So it's quite an expensive one. If you're looking to buy the stone out of this small village before Mashhad, Khurasan, it's called Nishabur.
Right.
And that's where Imam al-Rida salawatullahi alayhi had a layover before he got into Khurasan. There were many miracles made by Imam al-Rida there. Some of you have probably gone there. Some of the viewers have probably gone there. I'm not sure if you have.
Haven't.
But basically it's where the footsteps of Imam al-Rida is engraved into a rock.
Right.
So, you know, it's subhanallah, just like Maqam Ibrahim in Mecca.
Right.
So you go see it there. And there was a tree that Imam al-Rida, he planted a seed, and between his salah, the seed turned into a tree and started giving fruits. So prior to him entering Khurasan, Imam al-Rida started showing his status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and obviously that astonished many people. He got a lot of supporters. There in Nishabur, this particular stone exists, and exists in many other places around the world. It exists, for example, in Egypt. So you have the Fayruzaj, that's from Egypt, that's Egyptian. However, the majority of our traditions from Ahlul-Bayt talk about the Fayruzaj that's from Nishabur, from that city, neighboring city of Khurasan in Iran. Now, was it that Imam al-Rida, for example, was saying, you know, because it was close, he was just telling them, you know, you can find it there, or is that a particular area that we need to look at? That's also another discussion of its own. However, because basically Nishabur is running out of Firuza,
right,
and a lot of people want the stone, it has become very expensive lately.
Right.
And it depends on the color. You know, if it's red, if it's very blue, then it's more expensive. If it kind of goes towards the greenish, then it is less expensive.
Some of them have like cracks in them as well.
Yeah, so the cracks obviously will reduce the price. However, it depends on what kind of cracks. Is it black or white? Right. Is it within the stone or outside the stone? So if it's if it's white cracks, then that's obviously going to reduce the price by a lot.
Significantly.
If it's black, then a little bit less. But if it's black within the stone, I mean, you don't actually feel it above the stone, then that's a completely different story.
Right.
Anyways, let's move on. So we do have a hadith that you should be wearing it on salah as well.
Yeah.
We have a hadith that you should be wearing it, for example, when you attend a meeting or what have you, to receive that victory, that aid.
Yeah.
We have a hadith that you should wear it when you're making a dua.
Yeah.
So that's when it comes to turquoise.
This is kind of fascinating too. You know, Native Americans in America, there's also turquoise, and Native Americans have it as a holy stone as well. The turquoise.
That's
good.
Just
kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. Turquoise has been around for a very long time. It's definitely a stone that, sultans and kings and queens and many important people would want to have and wear.
Right.
And then you have ruby.
Right. Yaqut.
Yeah, yaqut. Yaqut is for nobility. It's a red one.
Yeah.
And it's a stone that's associated with nobility.
Right.
Now, those who want to have that quality or to portray that quality or to associate themselves with that quality, that's a stone for them. And then you have the emerald, the green one.
Right.
Definitely my favorite. Unfortunately, not something I can afford. Same thing goes for so my favorite would be definitely first the emerald, and then the turquoise. And of course, the ultimate favorite is aqiq because we'll talk about how special it is. But as far as how it looks, I would say
just based on beauty,
the emerald and turquoise.
Right.
But to be honest with you, emerald is a very special stone.
Right.
And it is associated with ease, and it is associated with taking away tribulations, and it's associated with tranquility. It's associated with feeling good. It's associated with also victory. It's a very special stone. It's associated with rizq as well. Obviously very expensive.
Right.
Usually I would say to people who are trying to get emeralds or ruby or turquoise, to make sure that you get them from somebody that sells them with certificates.
Right.
And that's very important. You have to have a certificate. If you're buying an emerald, you're spending at least $3,000, $2,000 at least for a little one. So you have to buy it from somewhere that's authentic.
Right.
I believe that the majority of the authentic, very beautiful emeralds are from Colombia, right?
Yeah, there's Colombian emeralds, Brazilian emeralds. Those are the highest quality ones.
So the first highest quality I think is from Colombia, and then the second one is from Brazil.
Right.
Anyhow, so you need to know if it's Colombian, you need to know if it's Brazilian, you need to know, you need to have a certificate for it.
Right.
Anyhow, so the green one is the emerald, and that's like we said, it's associated with ease, and then the hematite.
Hematite, hadid.
Hematite is it's like a black iron.
Yeah. Right.
Though it's not really iron.
Right.
It's like a stone.
Yeah.
But they used to call it the hadid, al-hadid al-Sini.
Chinese metal.
The Chinese iron.
Right.
And you will find that in Islamic countries it looks black. Usually on there, this statement is written: "A'udhu bi jalalillah, I seek refuge in Allah's glory. A'udhu bi kalimatillah, I seek refuge in the statements or the words of Allah. A'udhu bi rasulillah, I seek refuge to Rasulullah." This is something that Imam Ali, the Ahlul-Bayt, and the companions would wear in times of difficulty, with this statement written on it. In fact, we have a hadith that Imam Ali, in times of difficulty, would wear the stone as well.
Right.
In times of battle, sometimes he would wear the stone as well, with this statement written on it.
And it's more affordable too, the hadith.
It is. However, this is not something you want to wear all the time, for
Right.
sure. I know you said that nothing is scientifically proven. Now, I know for a fact that I've read articles and I know of, now they weren't in English, so I don't know how authentic they would be, but they
Right.
seem like they're reliable sources about how they use the example of iron and magnet.
Right.
And how they have an energy towards each other,
They're
right?
conductive, yeah.
So, but you don't see it.
Correct.
And you don't feel it, right?
Correct.
Unless you put them next to each other.
Yeah.
So basically, they say that all alive rocks or stones have this
Organic stones, yeah.
this energy, right?
Right, definitely.
However, some of them will end up dying, like you said. Turquoise. If you put oil on it,
Yeah.
it starts turning green, and ultimately it dies.
Yeah.
So, you want to get a stone that is alive because it starts giving you the energy that you want from it, right?
Right.
It's you don't see it, but it makes you feel that way. It generates that
Right.
energy for you. So this stone by itself, I know for a fact that it sometimes it gets people agitated too fast. It gets
Right.
them angry sometimes. I know, for example, some people start getting even headaches if they wear it all the time.
Testosterone, maybe.
Yeah. So anyhow, so I would say wear it if you need to. It's the hadith say when you're traveling, when you're going into a business meeting, when you're going into war. Hopefully, you don't have to go to war anytime soon.
During the lockdown of Corona,
yeah.
don't wear it at home.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And then you have the aqiq.
Right.
Aqiq is obviously the most mentioned in hadith. You will not. You will never find any other rock or stone praised like the aqiq in our books and a hadith. It is definitely something that the Ahlul-Bayt always had.
Right.
And aqiq is of many kinds. Many kinds. The ajit has many kinds, many different colors, many different places.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the black one. I'm sorry,
Red.
the red one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very tired today.
It's okay.
The red one, the yellow one,
Okay.
and the white one.
Okay.
So the white one, it's very rare. It's not easy to find.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Well, just putting it out there that it exists, yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
And then you have the yellow one that is very yellow.
Yeah.
Or yellow towards a little bit of red.
That's Sharaf al-Shams.
And that's called Sharaf al-Shams.
Right.
But it's aqiq.
Right,
But
right.
because of the color that obviously
nickname.
resembles, the sun, they call it Sharaf al-Shams.
Right.
And then you have the aqiq that is red.
Right.
Now, the best place to acquire aqiq from, and the hadith that talk about the aqiq, it talks about the aqiq that is from Yemen, al-aqiq al-Yamani.
Right.
Many ahadith, many beautiful ahadith and narrations speak about the aqiq that comes out of Yemen. One of them is the one that says, Allah put this message, his message, which is the belief in the oneness of Allah, Tawheed,
Right.
the prophethood of all the prophets, and their message, and the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen and the Imams after him. This is the complete message, right? He offered this to all his existence, all his creation.
Right.
And amongst the creation that hastened in accepting this was the mountain of the Ajit in Yemen. Jabal al-Aqiq in Yemen. And that is why it's praised. That is why it's loved. Now, this could be. I haven't really seen the chain of narrators, or I haven't really seen how authentic this hadith may be. But it's a hadith that it's mentioned. For example, in the book of Shaykh al-Saduq, Thawab al-A'mal.
Wow.
It's a very popular book. I don't want to say a very authentic book, because in all our books you'll find something that is authentic and something that it isn't.
Right.
But I'm just putting out the hadith out there. So the hadith about aqiq are way too many. So basically, we have a hadith from Imam Rada that says ينفي الفقر. It removes poverty. We have another one that says ينفي النفاق, again from Imam Rada, that it removes hypocrisy. Hypocritical traits will be removed if you have the aqiq. Imam al-Sadiq says, if you wear the aqiq, then you will not be impoverished.
Right.
And you will not die as a poor person. It is narrated, it is better that I say it is narrated or it's attributed to Imam al-Sadiq, because, obviously when you're fasting, you can't really say Imam al-Sadiq said this if he hasn't said that, or the Ma'sumin. So it's better that we attribute, and once again I want to re-emphasize that, we're attributing this to the Imams as it appears in our books. A companion of Imam al-Baqir by the name of Bashir, he says, أي الفصوص أفضل يا ابن رسول الله? Which ones, which gemstones are the best of stones for me to wear, ya ibn Rasulullah?
Right.
So he says, أين أنت من العقيق? Why aren't you
don't you know about aqiq?
Don't you know about aqiq? And then he tells him that it's good for sa'ah for rizq, for increase in your rizq. We also have a hadith about prayer while you have aqiq. We have some hadith that say each rak'ah is equivalent to 1,000 rak'ah if you wear aqiq from Yemen.
Right.
We have a hadith that one of the imams, I believe Imam al-Sadiq, was with his companion, and he passed in front of the palace of the sultan or the king at the time, who used to call themselves the Khalifa. And somebody had come out and he was lashed and he was hit and he was abused. And that was something normal,
Right.
They would do that in police stations all the time. They still do that in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
So Imam al-Sadiq says to his companion, see if he's wearing a ring. And he says he is. He says, what is the ring? So he says it's not aqiq. He says to him, it's not aqiq. We don't know what it was. And he says that if he had wore the aqiq, it would have been a protection for him.
Wow.
So they say, such a hadith say that it's protection against poverty, it's protection against death.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously we have two types of fates written. Obviously, one is mu'allaq, that changes if we pay sadaqah and what have you. Or, for example, we are in aqiq, and one that is definite and that cannot be changed.
Right.
So I'm sure it's talking about that one. And against whatever is going to make you bleed, as in, you cut yourself or whatever, it protects you against that. Right. So, again, those aren't al-illa tamma, an absolute reason.
Right.
It's possible that you wore a aqiq and you cut yourself, or something bad happens, God forbid. But I'm sure it had protected you many times prior to that. And when we say that, by the way, are we going to talk about superstition later?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we'll talk about that later. Al-isra' biqada' al-hawa'ij. It gets your hajat and your prayers and your needs or what you're praying to Allah answered quicker if you have aqiq. We also have a hadith that says when you wake up in the morning, take this aqiq and put it in the palm of your hand, or if you have a aqiq that it's not in a ring but it's just a stone.
Just a stone, yeah.
And that's why you see some people, they do this.
Yeah, they flip their
ring. They flip their ring. So what's the significance behind it? It's because they say you look at the aqiq and you read inna anzalna, and then you read a little dua, and you then receive protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. It's against theft as well. And obviously, it's a very recommended stone, worn by all the ma'sumin and all the by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Imam Ali was asked by Rasulullah when he was in Yemen, what do you want me to bring for you? And Rasulullah said to him, several horses. He had asked them, Rasulullah, so he said to him, I want this horse, because the Arabian horses there were also very special. And he told him to get him aqiq. Now aqiq was also very cheap. It wasn't expensive until the recent conflict in Yemen,
right?
And obviously Yemeni merchants can no longer get the aqiq out, and it's also become expensive. It's become rare, unfortunately, not as much as it used to. Aqiq has, like I said, many different kinds. So if you want to buy aqiq, like I said, when you go to places, make sure that you try to buy one that's from Yemen.
Yeah. So talking about all these different kinds of stones, where would be the best place to buy some? We have like 5-6 different type of stones we just talked about. Especially in the U.S., it might be hard to get some of them for a good price or good quality. Where do you buy your stones, or where do you recommend that?
So if you're trying to buy a ruby or an emerald, I would say
it's good.
Yeah, I would say anywhere that it's authentic. I know that.
Go to Colombia.
Go to Colombia. It's actually not as easy in Colombia. Right. It's probably easier elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's associated with mafias and gangs, and sometimes it's even dangerous. But I know that there's a lot of places in Dubai that have that have emeralds with certificates and what have you, and rubies with certificates, and they're reliable places. Now, is it going to be cheap there? No. So if you know anybody who was good at this stuff, you might want to get their help. But when it comes to aqiq and when it comes to turquoise as well, turquoise, obviously, your best bet is in Mashhad or in Iran if you're trying to get a Neyshaburi one. And because it's become very expensive now, very expensive,
right.
I mean, by expensive, it's almost as expensive as the emerald.
Wow.
Now there's places that sell it with certificate, that this is from Neyshabur. And it has a little brief summary, how old it is, this, that. But at the same time, I still would say, try to get it verified.
Right. Speak to a gemologist if you can,
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be easy for them to tell you if it's from Neyshabur.
Oh, right, yeah.
Or not, unless they see it.
Right.
Yeah, so basically the one from Neyshabur, usually behind it, there is whiteness. There's like a whiteness, and it's not so smooth.
Right.
And the ones from Egypt, no, they usually have like the black cracks or the black what they call veins.
Right. I know the American one also has the little white dots behind it.
Yeah.
Little spots.
So basically, I would say a good place, is Iran is good, Iraq is good. Those obviously will have the most. Iraq, I would say Durr and Najaf. That's what you want to get from there.
Right.
But the rest come from Iran, to be honest with you. Right. Now, how authentic it is, how reliable those places are, how truthful they're going to be, that is not something that we can obviously discuss here.
Yeah.
But I have, because obviously I lived in Qom for 14 years. And I have this hobby, and a lot of my friends, when they visit, they also want to get rings and what have you. So I was able to find trustworthy people. It took me a long time, but I found some very special people that have very special things.
I know a lot of people too. They go into a jeweler, buy these jewels, gemstones, and it could be a real gemstone, but it may be lab created.
Yeah.
So there's a high influx right now within the Middle East of lab-created gemstones that look identical to the real one. You can't really tell it apart.
So it's just like wearing plastic, basically.
Yeah.
It's great in the labs.
It has the same chemical composition, though, which is crazy, But one is created in the lab, one is created naturally. So this kind of makes me want to transition and talk about the definition of precious stones to us, and maybe the definition of precious stones in pop culture or Western culture. Diamonds obviously are right now the most precious stone, price-wise, rarity-wise, because that's how it became. In like I want everyone to go look into the history of diamonds and why the price is so expensive right now. Diamonds were in abundance in Africa, 200-300 years ago, in a crazy way. They were not rare at all by any means. They were just a simple rock. But eventually people caught on to diamonds, and Europeans and people that were colonizing Africa, they started to mine all the diamonds out of Africa and hoard them within their own countries. That way the price of the diamond would increase and the rarity would increase. So right now, people, especially sisters, when they get married, they want a diamond, or they want some diamond earrings, or, they want the wedding ring to be a diamond. And some of these diamonds, 30 grand, 40 grand, obviously millions of dollars in some diamonds, but, if you're spending 30, 40 grand on a wedding ring...
Yeah, making payments for like...
You could put a down payment on a house and get a ring that has actual spiritual benefits. Yeah. Or actual, diamonds have no spiritual benefits whatsoever. It's just...
the sisters are already getting upset with you. I'm just joking.
Yeah, Blood Diamond movie, I see that. Yeah, Blood Diamond movie. Yeah, so especially those diamonds, a lot of them are... the way that they're extracted is highly corrupt. People die over these stones, and then they're brought over here.
Kids,
yeah,
innocent people.
Yeah, so I want everyone to look into diamonds, and I'm actually not that.
So we know that you're not gonna be buying any diamonds when you get married.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It depends on the person, but I don't know if I hope she won't really want a diamond, but we'll see. That's a different topic. But the definition of precious stones to us, what makes something precious to us? Is it the price or rarity, or what is...
I think, to be honest with you, I think that it's just the way diamonds are commercialized,
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like every time you see a commercial or even when you, for example, you write wedding.
Right.
On your phone, and what's the emoji that comes up?
Yeah,
it's the diamond ring.
Right.
Or that's what they use. It's just so commercialized, that every woman when she thinks of marriage, she just thinks of the diamond ring.
Right.
And the bigger the ring, it just shows that this guy loves me more, or at least to her friends, or to her associates, that this guy loves me so
Instagram.
much. Yeah. And I really don't know where this stuff came into our lives from. Obviously, it's not good. It's not good at all.
Right.
I think a woman that's confident, that has enough confidence, that has an understanding of what goes, what's behind those stones. If you know that a child is going to end up dying because of that rock that you're wearing, that stone that you're wearing, are you going to enjoy that anymore?
Right.
Or if innocent people are going through hell because now
that
you're
might
wearing
have
that.
Negative properties on you.
Honestly, and so inshallah in another episode we're going to talk about hasad, and we're going to be talking about jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between the evil eye and jealousy? We're going to talk about that. So that's not the place for it, but that also is a reason how you can get jealousy. For example, turquoise, even though it looks very beautiful and attractive, but it repels the evil eye.
Right.
That it has that in its nature. But definitely something very sad. When you hear about or you read about the history of diamonds, and how the first part of its history is so bloody, it's so nasty, it's so disgusting.
Right.
And then the second part of its history is, it creates wedding and love and romance and whatever comes with it. So very contradictory for sure.
Definitely.
But in the end of the day, it is an industry that's making
billions
of dollars for certain people, and they know exactly how to sell it to you, they know exactly how to market it to you, and that's how they're being able to control people with it.
Yeah. When we talk about gemstones, we obviously had many questions asking what kind of gemstones the Ahlul-Bayt wore.
Yeah.
And if they did wear some, did they have any inscriptions on them? Were they etched with any ayat or hadith or anything like that?
Yeah, so basically we talked about the stones that they would wear.
Right.
And now we're going to talk about what was written on their stones. And obviously, we'll talk about if you should have the same thing or you can go for something else. Amongst the rings that we wear today that is meant for protection is something called Hirzul Jawad.
Right.
It's a ring that Imam al-Jawad would wear.
They usually have like a little star on them.
Yeah. And there is a dua that's in there. So
Right.
it's like a little dome type of ring. And
Right.
within there, they actually place this thin
Small
piece of paper.
Right.
If you open it, there's a dua that Imam al-Jawad had in his pocket for his protection.
Right.
And he taught that to others, and that's how it's passed on to us. And it's a beautiful dua, and it's called Hirzul Jawad.
Right.
Now, what was written on the stone or the ring of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It was written, La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautiful statement.
Yeah.
Also, very powerful statement.
Right.
On the stone, on the ring of Imam Ali, La ilaha illallah al-Malik al-Haqq al-Mubin. The King, the Truth, the Apparent.
Mm-hmm.
La ilaha illallah, the King, the Truth, the Apparent. There's no God but Allah, the Truth, the King, the Apparent. La ilaha illallah al-Malik al-Haqq al-Mubin. On the ring of our beloved Lady Fatima salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha.
It wasn't a diamond, by the way. Imam Ali didn't get
mostly I would say
just
aqiq.
to remind our sisters.
Ni'am al-Qadirullah, which is translated into that the best of the powerful is Allah.
Right.
We have many of the powerful, but who has the most power? Allah. Who's the best of them? Allah. Who's the most capable? So the best of the powerful is Allah. Ni'am al-Qadirullah. And then another one, Amin al-Mutawakkilun. Allahu Akbar. That the ones who have tawakkul will be saved, will be okay. So, the key was tawakkul there,
right,
in the life of Fatima Zahra. And it portrays, her, and really everything that is written on those stones, it portrayed a huge part and principle within the life of that Ma'soom, salawatullahi alayhi. Al-Imam Hassan, Al-Izzatu lillahi jami'a. All glory belongs to Allah. Al-Imam Al-Hussein. A lot of people want to know this one.
Yeah.
Inna Allah balighu amrih. Allah's mission, Allah's plan will prevail. Subhanallah. Right. This was written on the stone, the aqiq of Al-Imam Al-Hussein salawatullahi alayhi. Sometimes it could have been turquoise, by the way, according to the hadiths.
I see.
And other stones, the ones that we have mentioned. Al-Imam Al-Sadiq, for example. Kun min Allahi hadira. Be aware of Allah. And the rest of the ma'sumeen, obviously, our time is limited. Now, can I get something written on my stone? Yes, absolutely. You can buy aqiq, you can buy for example, we have a hadith from Imam al-Rada salawatullahi alayhi about the turquoise and people who cannot have children, and it has a special dua written on the turquoise for them in a special way. Right. So, you getting the stone, acquiring the stone, and then getting something written on it is not hard. Or buying something that with a statement already written on it isn't hard either. It's more expensive. However, what's important about this is who writes it and when do they write it and how do they write it. You have people that write it, but they're artists. They don't even pray. They don't fast. They don't. They're doing it as a job. Yeah. And then you have others who know they do it part of rituals. I know someone who writes it, for example, between Fajr prayers, after he does his prayers, and sunrise. That is the most blessed time of the day. And he does it with wudu, and he does it with, he does, so it's very special. It's very different.
Pious person.
It's very different how those statements are written and how they're going to have an effect. But basically, you can write. I saw a great alim, and by alim I mean up there,
right?
In spirituality and knowledge, and on his stone, he had written, "I am the servant of Fatima." So you can write,
Anything
whatever that portrays your personality,
Right.
whatever that portrays your state of mind. How do you feel about Allah? Are you a person who has a lot of tawakkul? Then write that. Are you somebody who's seeking forgiveness? Then write that. Are you somebody who's thankful? Write that. And see how it makes you feel. It's going to make you feel much better. It's going to make you feel special. There's a lot of books that I have read that within there you'll find that, for example, some of the kings, some of the emperors, some of the imams, some of the sahaba, they have, special stones and they had special du'as and they had special things that made them feel special. And that's what's going to get us to our last part of the discussion.
Let me ask you one thing, though,
yeah.
before we go to the next point. So those rings that were etched, were they used as seals for letters, or...
Because the one from Rasulullah, yes.
Yeah.
So, and the Imams.
Right.
But, for example, the seal of Rasulullah, if you go to Topkapi...
you could see it.
Yeah, you could see it. It says, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Some of them, they would wear it only for themselves, and some of them, they would wear it only when they want to use it as a seal. Right. And the Maraja today, the same thing.
Right.
For example, say the Sistani or the rest of the Maraja, they have the seal, but it's in their pocket. They don't wear it. So they take it out.
It could be like a little stamp.
Yeah, and they seal it, and they put it back in their pocket.
Right.
And after they die, they break it. I don't think anybody was literally wearing it.
Yeah.
And then taking it out and using it as a seal.
Right.
But it was turned into a ring.
Right.
The reason being, for example, the Catholic Church.
Right.
That's how it determined, with people of office, with people like cardinals.
Yeah.
Cardinals were like princes of the Vatican, right?
Right. Princes of Rome, right.
Princes of Rome or the Vatican.
Right.
And that's how, they were given this ring that they have to wear it.
Yeah.
And they also used it as a seal.
It's a way to authenticate their identity. You know, when back before text messaging or WhatsApp, you need to authenticate someone, and their seal is.
Yeah, and now when, like, for example, you claim you have a letter from a marja',
right,
you have to have the seal. Right. Without the seal, we're not worth anything.
Yeah. So, to our last point and the most important point, gemstones and superstitions. I know some people think that, okay, I'm going to wear this aqiq and I'm going to pray and my prayer will be multiplied by 1,000. So if I pray once a day with this aqiq on, I don't have to pray for a while. Or, for example, like, okay, I'm going to go, do some crazy, dangerous stuff, but wear this stone. Yeah. And it's going to keep me safe. Yeah. Or you see someone with like 10 stones on their hands. Yeah. Walking around to repel enemies, and the guy has no enemies. Yeah. He's broke, but he has like 25 stones. Yeah. So what is the whole superstition, There's a lot of superstition driven. Yeah, there's a lot of people collecting stones. And literally, I mean, you'll see them and they're wearing like 50 rings. Right. And 2 or 3 on the same finger. Yeah, and that is not really recommended, to be honest with you. And it creates this form of us depending on those stones. Right. And that is shirk. Right. That is not allowed. All of what we said will happen with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once Allah allows, once Allah decides. And Allah has given us a package. He doesn't just say, go wear this ring. Right. No, Allah says, work hard, don't make enemies, stay safe, take your medication, live healthy, all that, and this could help. But if you do everything wrong and you expect this to help you, no. Especially if you don't have tawakkul, especially if you're not combining with faith, especially if you're not combining with the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a package. But I want to talk about superstition in a way that is, I would say, real. Right. Somebody who prays one
one salah and then doesn't pray 1,000, that's really stretching it. I know you're joking, but I will tell you scenarios where it happens. People who end up going to ziyarah,
right,
or going back home. Lebanese people, people who go to Africa, people who go to India, people who go to Pakistan, people who go to Iran, people who go to Iraq. I'm sure I've left other places out, but those are the main areas that I want to talk about, and we have to conclude very soon. Is they'll come back, they'll go, and they'll somehow, through somebody, they will get to know someone who is a spiritual leader or a spiritual person or somebody who writes du'as.
Right.
And they'll go to this person and they'll say, oh, my daughter, she's not getting married.
Right.
Or she has problems with her husband. Or her husband doesn't spend on her. Or my son is doing drugs. He doesn't wake up in the morning and go to work. Or, oh, my husband, I feel like, he's not okay with me. And the likes. Okay? And what do you think this person does? Is there anybody who has gone to those people and they say to them, no, you're just thinking that in your mind.
Right.
That doesn't exist. Your husband is just upset with you because every husband gets upset with his wife.
Yeah.
Your daughter's not married because it's just not time for her. She's going to get married, They won't say that. They'll say, oh, there's somebody who has a spell on you, who has black magic, who's this, who's that. And they'll make up the story where you're literally shivering from fear there. And you're like,
I need whatever you're going to
my life is going to go down a very dark path.
Definitely.
So, and then you're thinking, how am I going to get myself out? Well, they have the solution. They're going to give you a little ring, a little tasbih, a little written doodles. Literally, somebody showed me this, and I kid you not, I don't know how much they had spent on this, but he gave me a piece of paper. He said, I got this in ziyarah, and it's supposed to make me wealthy and whatever. So I looked at it, and literally, it was someone who just took a pen and just doodled on a piece of paper and gave it to this guy, and this guy paid money for it.
So basically they're going to con artists.
Most of those people, brothers and sisters, are con artists. They are lying to you.
Yeah.
We have to really put a separate discussion about this whole notion of who those people are, what type of powers they have. They could tell you what you had for lunch today. Or not today. You didn't have lunch today because you're fasting. But they could tell you a lot of things about you. So how is that possible? That they know of my past. They can tell you, for example, a lot of things. Honestly,
right. It's creepy.
It's creepy. I have seen this with my own eyes, so nobody has to explain it to me.
Yeah.
Or you can show them a picture, and they'll tell you a lot of things about this person in the picture
without knowing them.
Right. How is this possible? Are those people real? Can they help you? Can they change your life? Can they make it better?
Or
no.
Miserable.
This is all shirk.
Right.
Even if good things were supposed to happen to you, it will change.
Right.
Because why? Because then you start depending on them, not on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah says, قُلْ لَا يَأْبَأُ بِكُمْ لَوْلَا دُعَاءُكُمْ.
Right.
Allah wants your dua. قُلْ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Allah wants you to pray to Him, to have tawakkul onto Him. We didn't see our imams or Rasulullah, God forbid, going and doing such things. And this is all forbidden. Those who get involved in black magic, God forbid,
sorcery,
they are going to hell.
Right.
This is a major sin. I know people that come from religious families that have this practice and get themselves into this practice. This is haram. It is not allowed, and they will be punished greatly in the Day of Judgment. If you want to get things to your advantage in this life, what's this life worth, Habibi? What is this life worth?
Right.
This life is going to be 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of your victory. And then you have to go and answer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Day of Judgment.
Right.
So that's a completely different topic. But I want to talk about in the end of superstition. The superstition that comes along with all those things that we have mentioned, where some people use it to their advantage, to cheat people, to lie to people. You have to be smart enough, brothers and sisters, to differentiate between the two, to make good decisions for yourself. And I hope we did some justice to this topic. I know we won't be able to get into it any further, but we'll be able to continue inshallah on similar topics after the month of Ramadan.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Sayyid. Thank you so much to our viewers, everyone that tuned in. We hope you enjoyed our topic today. Thank you so much for your questions, for your support. Unfortunately, we don't have much time left to talk, but please be on the lookout. We're going to have one last episode. The topic is going to be announced, within the next day. Put your questions there and give us your positive feedback. If you want us to change anything or have anything in mind, please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well and keep us in your du'as. There's only a few days left in Ramadan. And thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, brothers and sisters, for joining. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.